Hi, YouTube. It's Detroit Allycat. Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time ever visiting me, I like to cover the strange, the unusual, anything spooky, anything weird. True crime seems to be my thing. So, without further ado, let's get spooky. Yeah, it's over there. It's over there. So, how is everybody doing? I'm gonna call today Spooky Sunday. Hopefully, we get this out tonight. I'm recording a bit late, but I thought this would be a really cool thing to talk about because I haven't talked about anything spooky or scary in a while. Actually, I haven't been on YouTube in a while, but I'm going to try to change that. I know I always say that, but that's going to happen. I found something the other day that I thought was so cool. One of the places that I love to go visit is cemeteries. I think that there is a lot of history there. I like to walk around. I really love looking at the tombstones. I like looking at the memorials. I think that people have gotten so creative recently. I just saw a tombstone the other day that had like a Halloween setup on it, like with ghosts and everything. And I want to be honest, that's kind of what I want. But I love, like, looking at cemeteries and walking around. I like looking at really old cemeteries because I like to see, like, when people die and what happened to them, what their story is. I like going to, military cemeteries because that's really interesting to me and very sad because I feel like no one goes to them and visits them sometimes. So, getting back on track, I was watching these different things about cemeteries, and I learned about something called a dollhouse cemetery. I really like dollhouses. I know that that is creepy, and thank goodness that I don't collect them because that would be horrific for my family if I collected old dollhouses. I just don't have the room. But I love dollhouses. I love, like, how they can be really old and you can get really into the furniture. There was a dollhouse, like, factory right down the street when I had my son when he was, like, a young boy, so I always saw this with, like, the different dolls. Anyway, these dollhouses are actually dollhouse graves, and I had no idea that this was even a thing. Like, I've seen, like, all kinds of crazy graves, but I've never seen a dollhouse grave. I don't know if I'm living under a rock, but yes, there's these dollhouse graves. And there's, like, 2 that are super famous that I'm gonna tell you about, but there's more than 2. There's, like, a whole bunch of them. I did some digging up on 3 of them, but it turns out, like, this is actually a thing, and there are more than 3. I think I read that there were, like, 30 or 40 of them all over the world, but we're gonna talk about 3 of them. 2 of them are really cool to me or interesting to me because they're in the same state, 25 miles apart, and that's just kind of unique, and their stories are very unique. Actually, every single dollhouse grave has a very interesting story. Obviously, it's for a child and it's very sad, but the love and the thought that went into actually making these graves and the stories of how the graves got upkept just like really, it just kind of like touched me because you think about people when they die and everybody thinks like, well, the world keeps moving, the world keeps going on, people get forgotten, but like these families never forgot about these children. They like continued to upkeep these dollhouses. I'm going to tell you the story cuz I feel like I'm jumping ahead. So, let's talk about these stories. The first dollhouse grave is Vivian May Allison, and she is actually in Connorsville, Indiana. Indiana is known for having very unique graves. They have very interesting cemeteries. I found a whole bunch of stuff. I could go on and on about it, but we're just going to talk about this one specific thing. So Vivian May Allison, she died when she was aged 5 in 1899. She was one of the oldest dollhouse graves that I found. So she was actually born in 1894, and her father was building her a dollhouse for Christmas, which is so sad. And she passed away before she could get her dollhouse. So what they did is they took the dollhouse and they put it on top of the grave, and they put all of her toys in it, and they put like her little dolls in it, and you can actually see inside the dollhouse. I'm going to put some pictures of these up. It's been harder to put pictures on my YouTube channel for some reason because I don't know if YouTube has changed or they do weird things to the pictures online, but I will do my best to see these, to let you see these things because they're really cool. And so the family, her parents upkept this dollhouse for 70 years. 70 years. And then after her parents died, I'm assuming they didn't have any other children, the family of this child upkept the dollhouse. And then when all of the family in the area had passed away, the town started keeping up the dollhouse. Like, so the town keeps up the dollhouse, they clean it, they make it sure it's nice. One of the sad things that I found out about the dollhouses is that there's a lot of vandalism that happens, and that's just actually really horrible. Like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? I don't know. It's horrible. It's awful. If you ever get a chance to actually go to Connorsville, Indiana, and see the dollhouse grave, please don't vandalize it because that's just awful. All right, so 25 miles away is another little girl's grave, and she has a dollhouse grave too. Her name is Lova Klein, which I really love the name Lova, but that just kind of speaks of the time that she was born. She died in 1908 at age 6, so she was born in 1902, and all the things that I read about Lova is that she had like a crippling neurological disorder. So that really could mean anything. Really, 1908 was, 100 and something years from now. And like just medical science wasn't what it was. And, unfortunately, she could have had something that could have been very easily cured now or not. But, she passed away. They say that Lubba used to sit there and stare at her dollhouse, inside of it all the time, and she absolutely loved her dollhouse, and because she loved it so much, her mother really got into it, and she would decorate the dollhouse so Lubba could see it and, like, you know, basically see all these little things. And as the story goes, her parents ended up getting buried at a different cemetery than where Lava's cemetery was. And so when her parents passed away, the town where Lava was with her dollhouse on it, they actually took the dollhouse, which weighed 400. Hold on, I wrote it down. I wanted to get that part right. I think it was 400 pounds, and it was 5 foot tall, and they went ahead and they moved the cemetery, or the dollhouse and the grave itself, so that she could be next to her parents. And I just thought that was a really nice thing to do. Yeah, and now there's a sign that is up in front of Lava's little dollhouse. It tells you all about her, and the cemetery that she's in is the Arlington East Hill Cemetery, and she's there with her parents. And the dollhouse is really kind of precious. Like, out of all the I mean, I feel like I really like Vivian May Allison's dollhouse and Lova's too. They're really cute, but Lova's is just like, it's like a little tiny petite dollhouse. I don't know. It's kind of gothic looking. I love it. So then I wanted to see if there were other dollhouses in other states, because I thought, is this just like a Indiana thing? But it actually turns out that there is another girl Her name is Nadine Earls, and she was born in Alabama, and she almost was 5 years old, so she's the youngest that I did research on. She was 4 years old, and she died in 1933, so that means she was born in 1929. She is buried in the Oakwood Cemetery it's called Oakwood Cemetery, Lanett, Alabama. And, her father was making her dollhouse again for her, and then before Christmas was her father was making the dollhouse for her for Christmas, like the other child. And unfortunately, Nadine died, December 18th, and both her parents, Julie Julian and Alma, they decided that Nadine deserved to have the dollhouse regardless of the fact that she passed away. And so they went ahead and they put the dollhouse on top of the grave. And yeah, it's cleaned regularly. They put furniture in there. Nadine's dollhouse actually has a front porch. It's got lights, they decorate it for Christmas. It's beautiful, and when, Nadine's parents passed away, the city started taking care of Nadine's dollhouse, and, I just think that this is a really beautiful story, and I thought that I would share it. I don't know how spooky it is. I'm sure it does look spooky at night, and I'm sure there's stories of it being haunted, but I think this is probably more of a wholesome thing that I'm covering right now, but I also think it's kind of morbid because I love to go to, cemeteries, but I also feel like people that are in the cemeteries probably get very lonely if their spirits are there. And I just like to visit because I like to, find out about what happened to them, find out about their lives, look at that. I'm a big believer in having tombstones. I'm going to make sure that like all of my family has a tombstone that's very much like them, and they have a funeral. I love how they call funerals celebration of lives now because they make it all about that person and they celebrate their lives. I think that's really cool. Um, yeah, so I like these stories. I hope you like this story too. I hope it wasn't too boring or too not like me, but I thought it was really neat. Dollhouses, graveyards, kind of spooky, kind of sweet, you know. Uh, I'm glad you watched. Please think about subscribing. Please leave a comment. I see so many people watch me and nobody ever comments. Please just say hi. It would make me so happy. It would mean the world to me, and, I would love to hear what you have to say and where you're from and all the good stuff. Do you like to visit cemeteries too, or am I just, like, a lonely spooky girl? My favorite cemetery, though, I'm just gonna throw that out there, it's not part of this story. My favorite cemetery was in Salem, Massachusetts. That was really cool. So, all right, that's all I got for you today. Have a wonderful week. And as always, stay safe and stay spooky. Bye.